state
Senator
of
Dahle,
California.
quick response, and then I want to move on to homelessness.
I want to just say the dilution of facts is he keeps talking about the party I represent. That party hasn't had control in this state for almost 30 years, Governor. Why are all these problems not fixed? Because your policies are horrible. Californians know it. At the end of the day, you talk, you throw money, Californians are suffering, and you haven't solved the problem. Name one thing you solved that's actually fixed and we don't have to deal with right now.
Well, the highest reserves in California history, the highest per pupil
we have a bullet
in
train
higher
that you
education.
spent $4.5 billion on last year.
If there's an opportunity to answer the question or just oppose a response.
All right. Can we move on?
Let me continue, though, if I may, and forgive me, if I may.
I just want to make sure we have time to talk about homelessness.
Very proud of the fact the state of California is providing free meals for those that are food insecure in the state of California against his opposition. Very proud of the fact we became the first state in American history to provide universal health access. First state in American history, despite his opposition. Very proud of the fact we have the highest reserves, paying down pension obligations. Very proud of the fact we have one of the fastest growing economies in America. Proud of the fact we have a wildfire forest resilience strategy and a drought strategy. Very proud of the fact we have real concrete plans on issues of homelessness and housing
let's talk
and
about
education.
That.
And Mr. Dahle, on all of these, you've consistently opposed those efforts.
All right, I want to push you on homelessness. It is fair to say that the state has done more to address it in the last 4 years than potentially ever before. And yet, the visible issues of encampments and homelessness and street behavior and drug use appears to be worse than ever in many places around this state. What do you say to voters who feel like this is not getting better?
They're right. It's an outrage. It's unconscionable what's happening on the streets and sidewalks. That's why we're requiring accountability plans. I have 75 accountability plans. We're not going to hand out any money any longer. If local governments can't produce real results. We provided them $750 million in encampment grants to address the issue of encampments. We're providing them new tools with a care court to address the vexing issues of mental health. Of course, my opponent opposed the funding for care court. We provided them unprecedented strategies, home key and room key, that have allowed us to get 68,000 people off the streets, 12,500 new units have been procured just in the last number of months.
Are more people becoming homeless, do you believe?
The bottom line, in the last 2 years with COVID and all of the headwinds of COVID, there was a laissez-faire attitude in terms of addressing what was happening on the streets and sidewalks. But you're right. The premise of your question is accurate. When I got here, there was no homeless strategy, no plan, no resources of any merit. Today, there's $15.3 billion. There's a real strategy, real plan, and there's accountability for the first time. All of that opposed by my opponent consistently. Nowhere to be found. His entire policy for homelessness is some illusory policy of, well, we'll just do an audit. I've been around long enough to know when someone says their response to a problem is an audit, they don't have a response.
All right, Senator Dahle, you have been very critical of the governor's response to homelessness, and I noticed that just last week you joined your Republican colleagues to call on the legislature and governor to declare a state of emergency and ban encampments within 1,000 feet of sensitive areas. Would that solve homelessness?
Well, at least it will help children who are going to school be able to be free and be safe to get to school where there's a homeless encampments around schools. But I want to talk about homeless for a minute. There's a theme here. The governor talks about my party and all the things that are happening, but the theme is that he throws money at everything. But what are the results? Exactly. What are the results? He spent $20 billion, $75,000 per homeless person, and we have 22,000 more. It is growing. Absolutely, we know the number. 22,000 more. So the theme of this debate is that the governor has all this great talk, but the policies don't actually fix the problem. If you want to tackle homeless, I was a county supervisor for 16 years. He said in 2003, when he was the mayor of San Francisco, he was going to end homelessness. I just drove down the street here today, stepping over people defecating on the street and needles. He hasn't fixed it.
What would you not do that the state's doing now?
I would do, number one, about 75% of the people that are homeless are addicted to drugs. I would, day one as governor, I would make fentanyl a state of emergency and tackle fentanyl. 5,700 people died from fentanyl in California. Twice the amount of people in this city.
What would a state emergency do? I want to understand.
It would focus on the fact that fentanyl is an issue in California. People on the streets are addicted. We need to get them off of drugs. That's the first thing you do to get them on the projection out, is get them off of drugs. fund the counties with the mental health programs that they need and the clinicians, and then drive down the cost of housing in California are the three things that would need to happen to take care of homelessness.
And then
Governor, you did
consistently
promise
opposed all these efforts. We have $11.6 billion of investments on the issue of mental health, $3.5 billion specifically for boarding care homes and rapid rehousing for mental health that we've just now put up and put out. And in the next few years, we're going to see the results of those efforts. You've consistently opposed them.
Is
As it relates to, and
housing
this
a
is
big
important,
thing, though?
somehow a state of emergency, and then we're going to magically solve fentanyl. That's what my opponent just said. Somehow, magically it will disappear on the basis of a state of emergency, that somehow he will adopt a secret strategy that somehow will absolve any deep accountability for the fact he's consistently opposed our efforts to address fentanyl. Let me be more specific.
What have you put
You
forward?
opposed the budget that we just advanced of $7.9 million in the Department of Justice for 25 new people to create a new criminal investigations unit. You opposed the National Guard, of which we have 100 National Guard on the border addressing fentanyl. And you know what? You should know this. You're unaware of this. 14,000 pounds of fentanyl we've gotten off the street, 238 search warrants that we provided in the last year. It's an 238% increase over the previous years because of our efforts. We put out a strategy, not just on interdiction, which you opposed, but also a strategy that relates to fentanyl and opioid abuse, which you opposed, which is a strategic plan with 40 state agencies and nonprofit partners. You oppose the funding for that focuses on treatment and prevention, and it focuses on new strategies for managing pain. You opposed all of those things.
Okay.
Senator, quick question or quick response.
Plus, say,
otherwise,
he's talking about me. Yeah, I opposed his budget because he spends money with no results, and all the things he talks about don't ever achieve results. And so when he's talking about fentanyl and all these things, really walk down the street. I just ask Californians to walk down the street, look in your neighborhoods. You know the difference that this governor is really smooth at talking, but at the end of the day, he delivers zero.
All right, we're going to move along.